Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel and to another God's Little Makeup Artist Talk. I'm going to be in my journal and of course I'm going to be in my Bible. Alright, so just going to jump right into it. I was asked a very interesting question the other day, and that question was something along the lines of what has been the hardest part since coming to Christ. And I thought that that was a really good question. In other videos in my God's Little Makeup Artist Talks, I have kind of grazed on some of the things that I have actually struggled with before I came to Christ, but I don't even think I really discussed what has been the challenging parts since I've come to Christ. That's been about 10 years. So I'm a little 10-year-old in my walk with Christ. A couple of nights ago, I was actually tempted with my anger. And you know what? I'm not even gonna call it my anger because I don't struggle with anger anymore. A couple of nights ago, I was speaking to a family member on the phone and was literally tested to see how I would handle this situation. Either I was gonna go left or I was gonna go right. My family member that I was speaking to over the phone was literally getting ready to go off on me. Inside, I started feeling myself get rowdy. I went to sit up and I gathered myself before I opened my mouth to react the way that I know that I naturally would, you know, in the natural. I decided to make the right decision, respond in a calm manner, and that's the road that I took. And I was so proud of myself, but because it was such a challenge, it hit me. It hit me by the time I had gotten off the phone because I realized that if I had made the wrong decision and responded based on how I felt in that moment, that conversation wouldn't have ended well at all. This is not the only test. There have been multiple. I do fall short. However, I do not get angry the way that I used to when I was not walking with Christ. And even at the beginning of my walk, it was very difficult. Before I came to Christ, I literally had this attitude of, this is just how I am, and this is what you're gonna get. Apologizing for my actions was not something that I ever really leaned toward. I hate to say this, but this is the truth. I didn't care. I didn't care how I made other people feel when I was acting out in anger. My anger at that time was definitely rooted from something. That could be something we can go into in another video, but bad behavior is learned behavior. You know, it's kind of like one of those things where people would say, they'll ask, where do you think that came from? How did this start? A lot of times it comes from watching other people growing up. You know, as a kid, you see something repeatedly and then you start to pick up on it. You start to react the same way that you've seen somebody else react, right? I will say that anger was something that I struggled with before I came to Christ, and then it was really tough letting go of that anger once I became a believer. Before I came to Christ, anger was bad. I had very bad anger issues. I had trust issues. Sheesh, I feel like that would be a whole other separate video. But let's just say that my anger was like really intense. I struggled with it even more once I came to Christ because there's something about saying yes to Jesus. It's like he starts tearing away all the stuff. We're just gonna call it what it is. He starts ripping away those demons that were clinging on to you for dear life for like most of your life, you know? I was like 26. No, I was like 27. 26, 27, one of the two. And so prior to that, I was just kind of carrying on, and I thought that, hey, this is the way I am, and if you don't like it, who cares? You don't have to be around me. And I don't know, it's just poor attitude. But once I came to Christ, it was like so difficult because now where I'm at now, I can look back at it and go, wow, I was really trying to control a lot. When you're trying to control, meaning like when I say control a lot, for me, I didn't like being vulnerable. I didn't like talking about myself. I didn't like when people asked me how I was doing because I didn't think that they cared, and it would upset me. It also made me feel like people just wanted to know about my personal business, and I had already had a guard up And so when people would ask me certain questions that had to do with me, I just didn't like it. And then so once I came to Christ, it really heightened that for me. The best way I can describe it is that it felt painful. That vulnerability was coming forward no matter what. And I hated the feeling of being vulnerable. I have not always been the person to share much of anything about myself, ever. I usually just complained about a lot. I yelled at a lot of people. I screamed at people that were closest to me. It was hard. It's definitely just like going through detox. Once you're free of something and you want to stay free of it, it's hard when you're tempted by it. And that's where the challenge comes in. But it's like taking tests. If you take a test and that test is easy every single time, what are you learning? I mean, unless you just have like a brain like that and everything is just easy. You ever meet that kind of kid? I'm sorry, I'm so off subject right now. But that kid in class is like, teacher, I know, teacher, I know.
Okay, we get it. You know.
Just because you've been delivered from something doesn't mean you won't be tempted by it. The other night, I was definitely tested and I was tempted, but I exited out of that conversation choosing the right way to handle it. And it felt so good, but by the time I got off the phone, I just broke down. It doesn't matter what you struggle with. If you were once an alcoholic or a drug addict, or you were addicted to pornography, or you struggled with anger like me, or sexaholics, whatever your struggle is, you may be delivered from it once you're delivered from it, but it doesn't mean that you will not be tempted by that throughout the remainder of your life, because you will. The enemy will try to catch you slipping as many times as he can if you let him. And you have to always be on guard. You have to always remember what the word says. And in order for that to be, you have to be in your word. You have to know what the word says about being able to escape temptations. And God gives us, he always provides a way out. He doesn't just watch us enter into something where we are going to be tempted. And then he says,
oh, well, you're on your own. Okay? Sorry. Call me when you're done. You done?
Girl, he don't do that. Okay? That's not the way God works. I strongly believe that. And you have to just always stay in communication with God. Continue to ask him for help. He will help you. There was something else I wrote down in my notes. I love journaling. You guys, y'all know already that I have been journaling for the longest time. This is just something that I love to do. But there was something else that I mentioned. If no one else sees your growth, that's okay, because God does. Sometimes it can become so frustrating when you are actually doing your best and you have actually grown from the person that you used to be, and people will still look at you and go, but I know how you really are. I remember what you used to do. I remember how you used to respond. I remember how you, girl, I remember you. You ain't changed. No, you're not. Nah, it's just front. It's front. It doesn't matter what those people think. It really doesn't matter. I know I'm saying it. It's easier said than done, but it's the truth, guys. If nobody else sees the growth, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, what anybody else says, because God is the one that has been working in your life. He's the one that has been taking his time with removing those bad things, those demons, okay? Remodeling your insides to get you to the place that you're supposed to be so that you can do what he has called you to do. So what I ended up doing after that phone call, and I was sobbing and stuff like that, right? Jeez, we're so dramatic right now. But I'm just telling you what happened. I came in the kitchen and I prayed. I began to pour out my heart. It may seem silly because it might feel like you're talking to yourself, but the presence of God is so strong that at some point while you're talking to God, it ain't gonna feel like you're talking to yourself no more. It's just different. At one point, back in this anger part of my life, I did not love myself. So because I didn't love myself, I couldn't show that love to anybody else. So it was so much easier for me to lash out on people, especially those who were closest to me. Or if it came to defending someone that was closest to me, it was like I was always ready to like do what, yell at people. And if I ever feel like I am being provoked to a point, I don't need to be there. I don't need to be in a conversation with that person. I need to completely remove myself because God has given me that. If I know that I'm being tempted with something, if I'm getting ready to be tempted with anger, I either need to just completely remove myself or I'm going to respond the right way, which is with love. Always being sure to just listen. Even if I'm not in the wrong, respond the right way and exit the conversation with peace.